Hello, our friends, Evolutionary EEARTS, Heart's Home Family.
Hello there, welcome back.
Welcome back, guys. So we were talking about welcome to Plantation Earth, creating willing. Well, what do you want to talk? How you want to label it? Willing slaves to the system. That was one we've been meaning to do for a while because it is a video created by Larkin Rose. And some of you guys have seen it before, and I just thought it was really good. It was very simple, very direct, comes right to the point, and the timing too, because just right when we did that video, and then of course we've been talking about other things. A certain group that came through twice before came through again. And we'll share more about that in a future video, either today or tomorrow. Interesting to say the least. So, as always, guys, we want to thank you for your support over on Ko-Fi and Patreon as well. Patreon will have always exclusive videos going up over there for our Patreons, because again, these times they don't want you talking about and exposing the system. That's the no. Don't expose the system. Don't let people know they're in a Truman Show. So we see U.S. Capitol Police responding to report of a possible active shooter in or near the Senate building. Yeah, they took it very, very seriously, as you can see. People crossing, you got teams coming in and sweeping areas. They took it very seriously, but they didn't find anything. And I can never look at these halls and these buildings the same way, knowing that they are a reflection of Nibiru, really.
They are, and it's very much an as above, so below thing that we have going on here. And I can't help but wonder, was this some sort of a drill? Because they like to do drills and then call them live, and then oops, the same thing might happen a week or two later, but it is real, so they just, it wouldn't surprise me if this was just a front of some kind. I feel something suspicious here.
Everything is suspicious in this world. Everything is suspicious, especially when it comes from any sort of power structure. Because the power structure, again, is Satan. Literally, Satan means the adversary, and the adversary to humanity, it even says it right in the Bible, this world is controlled by the adversary. And how does that adversary work? The adversary works through lies, manipulation, deception, and creating certain emotions. It's so important for them to create a certain environment of emotions. Our emotions are very, very powerful. And, again, they want to create those negative emotions, or what we perceive as negative emotions, because they can be utilized as an energy source. Anger, hatred, jealousy, rage, all these things feed certain very dark entities. So, no active shooter found. What was that? Was that a drill? Was that somebody just doing a joke? Well, it did certainly create some energy, did it not? Here you have a man steals and drives a forklift. This is in Los Angeles, and the amount of insane acts that are going on right now has gone through the roof. And again, you could do nothing but cover all the insanity all day long with video after video showing isolated cases, mostly in the big urban metros, of people that have gone apparently bonkers and are committing random acts of violence and havoc and mayhem. It's just the norm. And so again, you got to ask yourself, is the stress getting to people? What's going on here? Are these little demons whispering in their ear? Is this technology? Is there something coming down from the satellites and those towers? Are the people too conductive so that they're just pulling in these frequencies and they can't handle them? Again, There's DARPA technology that we can show. I mean, one after another, declassified. It's all in our faces, but you know what it is? They don't think humans are smart enough to figure it out. They think most humans are pretty unintelligent, really. They view us very much like a dumb flock that is not able to think precisely enough, clear enough. And they also help that with the food, with the water, with all the frequencies. They don't think we could figure these things out. And unfortunately, most people haven't. Though many, many are waking up at this point, and we got to keep doing our best to wake up as many as possible. Meanwhile, in Louisiana, Delta Airlines flight in New Orleans, another person going crazy, grabbing a piece of glass, threatening a flight attendant, was subdued by 8 other passengers. These are crazy times. These are really crazy times. And when you look to this industry, they have a massive shortage of qualified people to fly the planes. You know, I've never been one to like to fly too much. I do like landing because you get great views and you can see things. But in these times, with too many people with well, let's just say sluggish blood. I don't know. I wouldn't really be looking forward to going out there and doing any sort of flying of a recreational type. No, and we've seen people freaking out and saying, you know, there's something wrong with that person. That person's not human, or that person's not a person. You know, again, there's so much craziness going on out there. It's like a mass hysteria going on.
One thing they did bring up is recognizing their own thoughts, and recognizing how many times a day do you have an angry thought, or you have some type of emotion like resentment flowing through you for this reason or that reason. How often are you driving that angry bus? And just still far too many people are so angry. But at the same time, if you look at the world we live in, why wouldn't you be angry? You know, but we have to learn to maneuver up and around that, because that's the path to get away from these beings. It's what separates us from us and them, is that emotion of love, the emotion of well-being. But far too often, people are curious about the news when there is something horrible going on. They'll click on that much faster than they'll click on something that works on their heart chakra. And really, I think we got to face it. That's just where we're at, because recognition and acknowledgement is the first step to changing a certain behavior. So understanding that we are traumatized people and helping one another, so that you turn that trauma into compassion and love, and you turn it that way and you work toward that. And then you start getting a desire or a craving for the emotions of love and joy and celebration. It's going to take time, no matter how we look at it.
Yeah, and they are banking that they're going to be able to salvage the majority of the herd. They fully expect to lose control of the totality of the planet, but they do think they're going to be able to keep the majority of the herd in their pens without the herd really understanding what's going on. U.S. credit downgrade signals great global shift to multipolar world order. And of course, multipolar is the way the BRICS countries are wording it. They're saying, okay, no more U.S. NATO power dominance. But in reality, it's never multipolar. No, the system is unipolar. The countries are an illusion. Corporations are more real and tangible than countries. Borders are always changing. It's just a divide and conquer tactic. But what are they doing? Yes, they are shifting their power base. It gives them the illusion of real change without giving any real change. This is exactly what goes on. Oh my gosh, please watch the video yesterday on Evolutionary if you haven't seen it yet. Again, it's short and it's right to the point, and it's very accurate. CIA moderating Wikipedia ever since, 2008 or so. They know for sure that CIA and FBI computers are being used to control Wikipedia. The big reveal is the CIA agents, the FBI agents, don't work for the American citizens. They don't protect American citizens. No, they protect the system. They protect the interests of the elites, who really are nothing but just humans that have sold out humanity. So when we recognize that, and we could go throughout all of time, we could talk about the OSS, MI6, we could talk about the KGB. Yeah, do they have agents that attack and at times have taken out other agents? Sure. These beings infight. They're all about ego, they're all about greed, they're all about jealousy. Yeah, absolutely. The ones that control, or the ones that are put in the position of control, but again, they're nothing more than middle management, really lower management. These are people that would do anything. They have done anything. They've already sold out humanity. They've betrayed every single one of us. And so, they wouldn't be above certainly betraying even some of their own. You drop raw meat into a tank of sharks. There you go. This is how they operate. So again, this is part of the big control. It's controlling the narrative. They want to always be removing too much that's going to give away the fact that there is a major control system, a huge control system in place. And it's been in place for thousands of years. So over in Japan, we see an intense earthquake swarm in the Noto Peninsula that's linked to ancient or hidden magmatic activity. And interestingly enough, it's manifesting in a very, very circular pattern here. Do you pick up anything on this? Because again, remember, Edgar Cayce thought that Japan would be underwater by now. And he also thought Japan would go under before California. I don't know about that because again, Edgar's timelines and time has been way off, though he was a super accurate healer, and he did give us lots of really good, interesting info into the ancient past and the different societies that were on the planet, different individuals of note on the planet. What are you picking up anything with this?
I'm picking up that it is something that our Earth is pushing back in a very natural way, and hopefully it won't get too bad. But yeah, she's pushing back on her own here, always never wanting to hurt anyone, but she's in a position where she can't continue to hold on or hold up against the other technologies that are irritating her around the globe. So keep an eye on this one.
And the biggest quake that we have out there today is a 5.9 off the west coast of Panama. And this is, again, something to note in my mind, because here again, you have activity of fairly decent size there below the San Andreas and Cascadia, which seem to be very, very locked up. And, we've seen big activity below and above those two areas, U.S. West Coast. The U.S. West Coast seems very locked up, and it seems like that pressure is just building. The way they word this, very bright fireball explodes over the eastern U.S. Well, to me, it didn't look like an explosion. To me, it looked like hitting the boosters and going into hyperdrive, just like so many other ones. They always look the same, pretty much. As you see, this was seen around Lexington, Kentucky, down to Knoxville, over towards Nashville, and even north of Charlotte, so over a wide area. This right here is it brightening, as you can see. They always seem to, boom, go to hyperdrive, and then they just take off. So much, again, this is part of controlling the narrative, as you can see it here too. Call these things meteors. They're just meteors. Oh, okay, government says they're just meteors. No, in reality, a lot of these are ships. And they told us a lot with Oumuamua, because it did do just like science and scientists have said we would do for interstellar travel. Come utilize the gravity of a star and slingshot off faster than as we approached it. Perfect. Textbook, in fact, and even saying it's interstellar. Yeah, absolutely. Because again, there are many interstellar ships, and that was a reptilian ship.
They still put it out there in the mainstream. Oh, it's just a rock. It just happens to look this shape. And it just happened to do this stuff. So, they're still in a place where they can put anything out there in the mainstream. And unfortunately, most of the people are going to agree with that. They might question a little bit, but they don't go any deeper than that, because if they do, then they have to start taking apart their own paradigm and they have to start putting things together. And a lot of people are still very resistant to that because they don't want to give up their lifestyle. But if they do have these understandings and start putting things together, they're going to be asking even deeper questions. So we still got a little ways to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And truly, they do bait us with the conveniences and get us used to things that are not necessarily so good for us. Do you guys remember the first microwave meals and stuff? It was like, oh my gosh, look how easy life is. We just throw it in, pop it on, and there you go. But never really questioning what that's doing to our body, and never questioning, okay, well, where did the life force go? What happens to the life force? Nobody even teaches you about, well, make sure you eat food that has a lot of life force in it now. When do you hear that nutritionally? When do you hear that in school? They miss on so much on purpose, because the key to living a life that's not a Kali Yuga life, again, the Kali Yuga, life is shortened by as much as 10 times, tenfold what it could be. Yeah, it's because of all the science, everything that they teach us that is limiting in nature. So we have coronal dimming in effect after a CME. Small, they say, but again, nothing is really small when your DNA is coming online. And, it is possible we'll get hit with the CME in the next 72 hours. They're not expecting anything too much, maybe a minor G1 geomagnetic storm. But what I would advise is to recognize this energy and invite it into your sphere of influence and accept it as coming from source, as coming from the creator of this universe, and that it's a positive, benevolent thing that's literally lifting the chains of slavery away from humanity.
Mm-hmm. And look at it with the understanding that it is going to strengthen certain chakras. But with that strengthening comes things that are going to be put in front of you that might be challenging. But they're challenging for us to overcome, to take a look at, for us to see in a different light. So this is very important information coming to us, and it has great purpose. But again, it might be challenging to a lot of people, and that's okay.
So prior to 1913, Americans kept 100% of their paycheck. Did you realize that? Again, we keep getting used to new norms as the old norms fall away. Growing up, there were certain things we were used to, and then all of a sudden something new came, and before you know it, you can't imagine how life was without it. Again, this is the way it is. At the same time, now, we're told that we work until sometime in April or May, depending on where we are as far as where we're categorized with our tax bracket, to pay just taxes. Almost half of the year could go towards just paying taxes. And the reality is it's probably way more than that. And then when we figure in inflation, way more than that. In effect, again, it's debt slavery. The debt slavery system keeps us, producing something. And even though there are many that are on different things that are government handouts, they're still producing something. They're producing emotions. They are batteries. They are a food source. Again, the Matrix is really pretty accurate. How many people ever saw this? Wait a minute. What's he doing? He's plugging in a light bulb to a tree. Huh? Yeah. You see, the statement here is electricity is free. Everything is electricity. You are electricity. Everything you've ever seen or felt is electricity. There's no such thing as a neutron or proton factory. Welcome to Earth. Everything's a distortion. Absolutely. Again, we can pull energy from the ether, and we can do miracles with it if we are trained to do that, and if we accept that we can do that. And miracles do happen. I mean, we've seen many miracles firsthand witnessing. And here is ZME Science, electricity from trees. Researchers have figured out a way to plug into electrical power generated by trees. Well-known fact for years that plants can conduct electricity. By the way, humans can too. Take care, kids. And now scientists from MIT found out just how much they can pack up. 200 millivolts of electric power. The lemon and potato battery experiments are already notorious for those that have never heard of this before, but this is something else. We specifically didn't want to confuse this effect with the potato effect. So we used the same metal for both electrodes, said Babak Parviz, a professor of electrical engineering at Washington University and the co-author of the study. They found that a maple leaf, for example, can generate a steady voltage of more than 100 millivolts. However, in order to become practical, a much higher voltage would be necessary, so researchers built a boost converter capable of picking up really little voltages and then storing them and then producing a greater output. By hooking the device to a tree using electrodes, they were able to generate an output voltage of 1.1 volts, which is not really much more than a promising start, but it's enough for low power sensors. The full study will be published upcoming issue of Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers Transactions on Nanotechnology. It's not really as practical as other options, but it could prove to be quite significant, especially for different types of sensors. Normal electronics are not going to run on the types of voltages and currents that we get out of a tree, a single tree. As new generations of technology come online, I think it's warranted to look back at what's doable or not doable in terms of a power source. And, again, we've seen these are related posts. Bacteria can generate electricity. Well, when you look at this, again, we are electromagnetic beings. Everything is. And when we see lightning, that's amazing levels of power and life force. It is life force. When you see like Zeus with the lightning bolts in his eyes, or Thor and he's swirling that type of energy, it's really alluding to gathering life force. And in Taoism, there are these Taoist immortals that spend their lives learning how to properly breathe, and on every breath they are literally taking in consciously the life force. And they are building more of an electromagnetic capacity in themselves, not just in the physical body, for when they leave the physical body. It's looked at like a rocket booster that can literally launch your etheric and your other levels of your other layers, I should say, of your energy bodies off into the stratosphere. And I've noticed a distinct correlation between ability to control dreams and certain mantras and when I'm practicing Qigong, lucid dreaming, and also leaving the body astrally. There is a definitive correlation between that. Our consciousness, again, is already hooked up to a net. It's not the internet, which, again, the internet is an artificial representation of that which is natural. And our consciousness, we are always uploading everything that we've ever experienced, and it will be available to us later. This is the reality. Everything you see is just a poor imitation that comes from the control system of that which is already established by the original creator of this universe.
I mean, looking at the trees and understanding the type of electricity that they can obviously create, and all of this information is already known. It's just now's a convenient time for them to start pulling it out and utilizing it for themselves and them. I mean, those controllers, nameless, faceless beings that really are the puppeteers of a lot of what we do here. And understanding that our bodies are electric and not chemical. It's not a bunch of chemical reactions like they like to, if you are ill, they like to give you a pill to try to change some chemical reaction. No, we're electric. And with that knowledge, thinking about the kind of food that we put in our bodies, that food ultimately becomes spirit. And we can work through the etheric realms in a much more, an easier way when it comes to life and life's happenings and life's goings-ons. It can make things much more congruent for you when you're putting in good, positive, organic food into your body. That makes a difference on how things go on about you, how things go on around you, how you process information, because it's that electricity that's coming in that are making those connections that are so, so very, very important, especially right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've talked about this, about language. Again, ancient souls. Now, I might have worded this a little differently. Ancient souls do not need the human language. We use frequency, tone, and vibration. Again, when the pineal gland is working, we just communicate telepathically. And we are coming online now. We are able to. And I mean, we notice this all the time. We think about somebody and you hear ping. There's a message that comes through immediately.
Mm-hmm. And also, understanding that they always like to copy things that we can do automatically. I love to look at our pets, our horses, our dogs, and knowing that they have this type of energy transfer information down pat. They don't need to use any language. They use just subtle body language, and they use thoughts. I mean, they are masters at this telepathic thing. We have much to learn from our pets and our children.
Yeah, you'll get some that would say, well, we'd never be able to communicate with extraterrestrials. Don't worry about that. I mean, they communicate telepathically. If they're at that level where they could come and visit us, we are able to communicate telepathically. How do you know it? Because we have many times. And again, many people have had visitations. It's not as uncommon as we would think. And some people with many different types of beings. This is a good little clip. This is David Grush and his new boss. And of course, what Grush has said publicly on record is one thing, and then what his boss is saying, I guess it's still on record in an interview here, is something that you should listen to, and this might get this video demonetized because of copyright things, but then we'll just push it over to Evolutionary if it shows up that way. Listen to this, and listen again. We have to wake up those that are asleep. This is really the key.
Once again, I can't discuss that publicly, and they say, well, we have no evidence of ET. Well, because, no ET is going to come walking in here and say hello.
Do you believe our government has made contact with intelligent extraterrestrials?
Something I can't discuss in public setting.
They've been around for a long time. They are affecting our culture, right? It's actually often thought that many of the religions that we think of as the most important have been part of this process.
Do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
Biologics came with some of these recoveries, yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human.
Well, if they're so frigging advanced, why are they crashing? Because what's crashing is not actual living things. So mostly what you're seeing here are either drones or some sort of advanced AI or whatever.
Once again, I can't discuss that publicly, and
they say, well, we have no evidence of ET. Well, because, no ET is going to come walking in here and say hello.
Do you believe our government has made
Yeah, I think, again, one of the key takeaways there is when he spoke about they're involved in the religions. Yeah, because they've given them to us. One person made the comment, I think it was yesterday, that they had a vision and they saw a gray writing things down in a book, and then they took the book to be the Bible, and not unlike what we have gotten. What we've gotten that literally it was the human controllers that have been designated and control the planet through certain bloodlines and willingness to sell humanity out, along with those that we would call the Gigi and the Anunnaki that did literally sit down and give us the Bible and give us also the Quran, and then also did the visitations on Joseph Smith and so many others over these time periods. Yeah, they control the narrative. They give us false science. They give us false concepts religiously to limit us.
And they start us so very young. And I've said this before. I've said it a million times. They take our children far too young and start putting them in school. And, whether it be preschool or any school, just remember your children are going to school to learn the controller's ways and how they do things, which is not nature's ways. I think our children should be home learning about gardens, learning about building, learning about how to run a house. They should be home and not learning how to run the businesses of those controllers.
Yeah, and I just look over to the live and spaces, and this is UFO and UAP chat. One just ended, which was interpreting Jesus's sayings. Again, as long as people keep going back and forth and you're arguing over interpreting the Bible, they're sitting back there snickering, and they're saying, "Look at that tangle web." We got them spending all their time going in our dead ends that go nowhere, and they just laugh, and they love it. They look at it as hysterical. Honestly, it's sad, but they do enjoy playing with humans, just as a kid might play with an ant farm. It truly is on that level. They said that, and when we talk about them, and the ones that came through were, again, the Anunnaki, and Cindy doesn't let them overshadow her, but she can hear them. And, they said, what you're doing, it doesn't really matter, because you're not going to reach enough people to make a difference. And that's the way they view it, because they have all these control systems in place. So, again, they'll limit the views, they'll put the AI algorithms such, and of course, they're always controlling the narrative. They knew, because they've done this before, that at some point in time, they got to come clean and say, yeah, there are ETs out there. It's part of their narrative, because at some point they will introduce the Anunnaki themselves to you. And you'll see them. If you make it to around 2035 or so, good chance you will actually see them, maybe even before that, for yourself with your own two eyes. But the narrative that they're going to give is, again, well, they have the technology to fix all the things that we did wrong. It was us that did all these things wrong. Humans did all these things wrong. The only thing humans did wrong was trusting in the system, because, again, they were tricked by beings that are very tricky and very, very good at it. And so what we need to do is cut off their food supply, and we're going to talk more about that. We do talk about that on Heart's Home, and we'll talk more about that in the future. Pretty simple. It's really about not giving in to the hate, the anger, the jealousy, and all those lower emotions. Because if we did cut the food supply, that negative energetic supply of food, they'd have no reason to even deal with us anymore. They wouldn't. And also the planet would lift up quickly to the point where they wouldn't be able to.
Mm-hmm. And then looking at these guys here, love is everywhere, and love is with our pets. And this guy is a little bit taken back because he thought he was the only love here, but no, this is just so adorable. And something I learned and mentioned to someone, I'm not sure about cows, but I would imagine it's very similar to horses and their hearts and the electromagnetic field that is around them that can actually calm a human down, because our heart is going to become in sync with the same electromagnetic frequency of the larger animal. Whales, horses, cows, you get around them when they are calm and you start to fall into sync with one another. And this is very, very good for our human bodies. We have so much to thank for our pets.
Oh, we do. So, center your day in love, stick around nature, get away from the technology as much as you possibly can. Ground and root, and learn some Qigong, some yoga, meditation if you're not practicing it. There's nothing more powerful, I feel, than the Vedic mantras, because again, they're contacting us directly to the teachers that we have in the golden age. And so we're pulling down 6D, 5D energy, and that is something that they just can't hang around. So as always, guys, again, thank you for your support over on Patreon. Join us over there for exclusive videos, and also thank you for your support on Ko-Fi too. God bless and namaste.
Namaste.